In this video, we're going to show you how to replace the driver's side front wheel hub on your Ford 500, located right here behind your front wheel. The process for this is the same as the passenger side. Now, if you have a hubcap, go ahead and give that a gentle tug outward, pop that off and set it aside. Using your 19mm socket, loosen and remove the 5 lug nuts. Grab your wheel, pull it off, and set it aside. Using a 17mm socket, loosen and remove the 2 slider pin bolts on the brake caliper. Go ahead and work the brake caliper off. You might be able to use a pry bar on the top side, work this back and forth. And use a support tool or a hook to go ahead and hang the caliper up onto the strut spring itself. You may have noticed when you separated the caliper from the bracket itself, these 2 shims may have popped out. So we're just going to go ahead and set those aside for now. Now at this point here, before we remove the 2 big bolts on the backside holding our brake caliper bracket in place, you want to pay attention to the brake rotor itself. If there's a bolt right here, this is a T40 Torx bit bolt. This goes through the brake rotor to the wheel hub. Now if your vehicle does not have this here, you want to go ahead and simply install a lug nut on the threads of one of the studs here to secure the brake rotor. Reason why you want to do this here is that when we remove the 2 bolts on the back, there is a big steel bracket on the back that's used as a stopper. You're going to also have the brake caliper bracket and the brake rotor all loose at the same time, and you don't want to juggle everything here trying to take it apart. Remove your brake pads. Set those aside. There are 2 bolts here, 15mm, holding our brake caliper bracket to the knuckle. Loosen and remove those. There's a bracket on the back here that this bolt also goes through, holding the knuckle. When you remove these bolts here, both this steel stopper as well as the brake caliper bracket will both be loose, as well as the brake rotor. Remove our lower bolt. Set that aside. I'm going to try and hold both of these brackets in place. One hand I'm holding the caliper bracket, the left hand I'm holding the stopper here while I'm removing the bolt. So there we go. And then go ahead and slide that bracket off. Use a T40 Torx bit. Remove that. Grab that brake rotor, slide it off, set it aside. Using our 32mm socket, loosen and remove the axle nut. On the back side of the knuckle, you're going to find 4 15mm bolts. There's 2 here, 2 on the other side. These hold the wheel hub to the knuckle. Okay, loosen and remove these. Get the last one on the upper back section here. We push in on that axle, get a little more clearance for these bolts to come out. With the 4 bolts loose from the back, we can go ahead and work on removing the wheel hub from the knuckle. And we're going to go ahead and use our hammer. And we're going to keep doing this here to try and break the wheel hub free from the knuckle. Go ahead and work that off. Now the back cover to our wheel hub is stuck in the knuckle itself. You can see the plate with the slots in it that should not be there. So we need to go ahead and try and remove that. I'm going to spray some rust penetrant on that. Now you can try and tap that out with a hammer. I'm just going to use an air chisel. Just give that a little blast like that. Now there's a good amount of corrosion on the inside on the aluminum. I'm going to use a little air tool here to clean that. Now if you don't have one of these here, you can simply use some sandpaper, go in and clean that out. You want to make sure that that's nice and smooth without any corrosion or burrs on it. Now if you don't have any other tools to work on this here, as far as air tools, you can use a curved file. You want to be careful not to damage the aluminum, but just enough to break down the corrosion inside here. When you're performing this job here, you want to be careful of the ABS sensor that's on the back side of the knuckle here, so just be careful of that. You can clean up and file around it. I'm going to spray some anti-seize around this area here. Be careful not to get it onto your speed sensor here. And take your new hub, line that up on the splines. Work that back into place. Push it into the knuckle. And what you might be able to do is just reach around the back side. We had left the 2 bolts in the top of the knuckle. Just reach around and get those bolts started by hand. Once those are started, we can go ahead and install the 2 lower bolts. You might have to grab that hub and wiggle it around a little bit to get that bolt started on the bottom. Now get the one on the other side started in there. Now, just as we did on removal, you can push in on the axle stub to pull the axle in away. That'll give you some clearance to get that bolt in there. Torque down the 4 hub bolts to 89 foot-pounds. Install the axle nut. Let's go ahead and snug that down. We're going to apply some anti-seize here to the face of the hub. Line up the brake rotor so that one of the recessed cones here fits onto the hole for the hub. Install that Torx bolt if yours has it, and snug that down. Install your caliper bracket. And install your stopper bracket first. I did put some blue Loctite on our bolt as we had from the factory. Slide your bracket in, push the bolt through. Yeah, now that'll tighten. Install your brake pads. Line up these little tabs here with the grooves in your slides. I want to go ahead and compress the pistons into the caliper. I'm going to use our tool here. I'm going to slowly compress this here until both of the pistons are flush inside. What we're doing is we're basically pushing the fluid back out of the pistons through the line and up into the reservoir underneath the hood. With these fully compressed, we'll pop out our tool, install the shims on the pistons. Install your caliper bolts. Torque the 2 bolts for the caliper bracket to the knuckle to 74 foot-pounds. Torque the caliper bolt to the caliper bracket. I'm going to torque those to 44 foot-pounds. Torque your axle nut down to 258 foot-pounds. Go ahead and line up the wheel with the lug nuts. Install all of the lug nuts by hand first, or at least get them started a few threads. Once these are all started, we'll go ahead and snug them down. Using your torque wrench, go ahead and torque the lug nuts down to 95 foot-pounds. Now when installing the hubcap here, you want to go ahead and make sure that the little notch lines up with the valve stem. You're all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.